Introduction to Self-Cultivation of Kamen Writer ZIO. I have a dream, which is to become a king and save the world. For this, I need a set of self-cultivation manuals to help me achieve my dreams. Well, before that, please show me the script. My Demon King, isn't this good? Chapter 1. Symptoms of Mutation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Good morning, Chengwang. Morning. Oh, look at you sweating profusely. Have you gone to exercise again? You really have no intention of giving up at all. Hee, of course, that's my dream. By the way, do you want to be my royal guard? Guantai, as we are close friends, I can appoint you as the knight captain. Faced with Chengwang's nth invitation, Guantai laughed and cursed. Forget it, Chengwang. Also, I advise you not to have such unrealistic ideas anymore. It's a democratic society now, how could there be a king who rules the world? Even if it does, it must be a demon king who triggers a cruel war. Faced with the cold water poured by his friend, Chengwang did not refute it, just smiled and shook his head. Even if I become the demon king, I must be the most benevolent and kind demon king. Chengwang let out a sigh of emotion, bid farewell to his close friend, and then continued his morning run. Since a long time ago, he has been having a dream where a person who can never see clearly is constantly telling him, you will definitely become the king. Of course, if it's just that, even he wouldn't be able to hold on for so long. At most, he would give up after graduating from Form 2, but Chengwang suddenly extended his palm and pressed forward. Da-da-da-da, accompanied by the sound effect of the clock minute hand moving rapidly, which perhaps only he could hear himself, the world suddenly came to a standstill, as if the entire world had suddenly been pressed the pause button. Chengwang's eyes narrowed. No, it's not like it's just that time has been paused. This ability, this kind of power. Chengwang let out a long breath. It is precisely because of the power of this certificate of the king, that he cannot give up. Waving his hand to restore the flow of time to normal, Chengwang continued to run. The morning time is still long, so there is no need to worry about being late for class. At least for him, that's the case. I flushed my face at the roadside faucet and replenished my fluids, and Chengwang finished this morning's exercise. However, the next moment, as he was about to shake off the water droplets on his hand, he found that his originally empty hand suddenly had an extra black watch. That watch has a strange design, with only the head and dial, but no hour and minute hands, let alone displaying time. What is this? Chengwang's face inevitably showed a puzzled expression for a moment. He looked around, empty surroundings, and the only other person who still existed was a stranger who was also running in the morning, getting further and further away from him. Can we say it's a supernatural event? Holding this watch in his hand, a strange feeling suddenly rose from the bottom of his heart, as if as long as he thought, this watch would bring him a powerful force enough to step onto the throne. For a moment, Chengwang's thoughts surged in his mind, and various speculations emerged one after another. Have you finally waited? The opportunity to realize your dreams. Who gave me the watch? Ghost. It's so scary. Suppressing the excitement in his heart and calming his emotions, Chengwang looked at the watch in his hand and fell silent. Suddenly, he placed it on the ground and turned around to leave. Although it feels like it is, the watch it comes with is still too eerie. If it was given by someone else, what is the person's purpose? If it was his own power summoning, even if he dropped it at this moment, he would still return to his hands afterwards. With this thought in mind, Chengwang made a big circle and returned to the original position, picking up the watch. Sigh. He let out a long sigh and smiled helplessly. Changpanchen Akairo, his uncle once said to him, when an opportunity comes before you, don't hesitate, don't be afraid of risks, seize it, and don't think that there will be other opportunities in the future and just give up on it with a lucky heart, because life is not so perfect. One miss may be a lifetime miss. Putting the watch into his pocket, Chengwang set off and ran towards the direction of the school. Although I have filled out the content of, I want to become king, in my application and have no plans to take the entrance exam, as a student, attending classes on time and not being late is the most basic literacy. Accompanied by the ringing of the class bell, I stepped into the classroom and walked leisurely to my seat, pulling out my full pussy. Seeing the teacher walk into the classroom, stand up the lecture notes on the podium and look down. As the class monitor, Chengwang shouted clearly and forcefully, "Stand up. Li. Sit down." The teacher nodded and instructed the students to sit down before officially starting the class. As a class monitor, in the past 3 years, Chengwang has strictly followed the class rules and organized the class. He has read one management book after another, although he is not very proficient. Fortunately, with the friendly support of his classmates, everything goes smoothly. As Chengwang watched as this small country was about to come to an end, he couldn't help but feel a lot. If his dream is truly realized in the future, starting from the management of small and large founding countries, the process of practice over the past 3 years will be his most valuable experience and wealth. In the afternoon club activities, Chengwang dropped out. He didn't go to the Taekwondo club, Kendo club, archery club, etc., but chose to leave school directly. He needs to go home immediately and ask his uncle to help us study that watch together. reading www.uukangshu.net. His family runs a watch shop. Although things like radios, computers, even televisions, washing machines, etc., once they break down, neighbors also habitually come to the 9 nights and 5 halls to have uncle repair them. But for watches, Chengwang said, "My uncle is absolutely professional." Running on the way back to the 9 to 5 halls, Chengwang was blocked by a person wearing gray clothes and a scarf wrapped around his head like a hood, making it difficult to see his face. Who? New delinquents nearby. What does he want? Chengwang couldn't help but tighten his fist, and then saw the person open the page of the book and say to him like this. "Congratulations." Chengwang suddenly looked bewildered. "Ha! This book records that today is a special day for you." The scarf man turned around and continued speaking as he walked. "But it's best for you to pay attention to the red robots." In the last sentence, the scarf man stopped, faced him, and finished speaking as if giving him advice. Ding-ling, the sound of the car bell ringing came from behind. Chengwang just turned back and then turned around, and the person disappeared. Eye blocking method. Magic. Transforming into a living person. And this kind of elusive behavior, can you say that he slipped the watch into my hand? Chengwang took the watch out of his pocket and carefully examined it. No, it should just be related personnel. Throwing up the watch and catching it again, Chengwang's face showed a helpless smile. No, maybe it's a middle-aged and elderly patient who has read a lot of novels. Chapter 2. Red Robot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Finally found you. Accompanied by the suddenly remembered angry shout, Chengwang looked up in shock and immediately blurted out a lying trough. What is that? The scarf man said about the red robot. It's so big. It's a fowl. Hey. Is this something that modern technology can create? Speaking of which, how careful I am. Being careful is useless. The raging wind struck, and the huge iron feet stepped on Chengwang. Without any hesitation, Chengwang turned around and saw a fierce tiger rolling and spinning to release its force, then stood up and ran. What he didn't notice was that before he put the watch back into his pocket, there was a flicker of light, but as he let go, it returned to darkness. Chengwang exerted his strength to feed his breasts and ran vigorously between streets, buildings, and alleys like parkour. Do you want to run away? The red robot chased after him, accompanied by a shout of anger that he completely didn't understand. That's for sure. Are you waiting to be killed if you don't run? Taking a moment to look back, Chengwang's mouth twitched and he suddenly ran faster. I said I didn't hear the shocking sound of stepping on the ground and the giant running. It turns out that the robot can still transform and fly in the sky. Hey! So impressive. This is just a realistic Gundam. The only downside is that its driver is a lunatic. Zhuang Wu scrutinized himself repeatedly, doing good to others every day. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't think of any hatred that needed to be met through life and death. In thought, Zhuang Wu crossed an obstacle and looked at the family of 3 who were comforting the crying girl ahead. Their faces suddenly changed. Should we do this? Can't you walk well without falling, little sister, big brother, I'm running away. Flipping back in front of the obstacle, crouching to defend and avoiding the red robot flying low, Zhuang Wu turned around and waved, about to provoke, pulling the attention of the red robot back to prevent it from venting its anger on the innocent family of 3 over there due to losing its target. But who knew that the red robot seemed to have locked him in with radar, pulling and flipping in the air, and then redirecting itself towards him. Zhuang Wu silently closed his mouth. Then, I took out my phone from my pocket. How can I run this thing? Can I hold on to these 2 legs until the robot runs out of gas? Call the police. A few years ago, there were reports that a detective in the police station could transform into a Kamen Rider. Now, in this situation, only Kamen Riders can solve this special event, right? Quickly pressing the button, Zhuang Wu took advantage of the idle time when the red robot suddenly stopped for some reason, and dialed the reporting phone of the police station. Mo-shi. Is that the police officer? I am currently being chased by a lunatic. Please come and save me, I am right there. When encountering demons, the king. The sudden man's loud shout from the earpiece of his phone plunged Zhuang Wu into a state of autism. Oh, this voice is so familiar. Pooh. Isn't that the crazy voice I just heard asking me not to run, standing and letting him kill me? Fall. Do you still want people to live? Zhuang Wu turned around and was about to start his second escape when he saw another white robot of the same design but with a different color transform into a flying machine parked in front of him. Subconsciously, his eyes widened until they were round, his muscles tense, and he maintained a state of being able to quickly bounce and dodge at any time. Zhuang Wu's expression on Chao Dan's face was like that of a beagle. Sleeping slot. Another one. Am I the great demon king who destroyed the world in my previous life? Why are all these strange things running towards me? However, the shock did not make him lose his judgment. The reason why he did not jump off at the first time was because the door of the deformed white robot's aircraft cabin opened to him. Hurry up. A hurried female voice rang out from inside. Zhuang Wu's eyes lit up with hope. Unlike the red robot, it turns out that the white robot is here to rescue the driver. Looking back at the red robot that immediately rushed towards him upon discovering the second robot, Zhuang Wu quickly crawled into the open hatch without saying a word. Bang! The cabin door closed in response to the sound. Accompanied by the ascent of the robot aircraft, the body shook, and Zhuang Wu quickly grabbed the surrounding fixtures to stabilize his body. Until then, he pretended to have time to observe the cockpit of this white robot. In terms of visual effects alone, it has a strong sense of technology, and the space is not small, more than enough to accommodate 2 people. At this moment, sitting in the driver's seat was a young girl with long black hair and wearing a white shawl dress. She was about 18 years old and had long and straight black silk legs, almost occupying all of his current view. Zhuang Wu smiled at the long-legged beauty and said, "Are you here specifically to save me?" "My name is Changpan Zhuang Wu, what is your name?" The woman glanced at Zhuang Wu with an extremely cold expression and said calmly, "We don't have time to introduce ourselves. Hold on, we're going." As she spoke, she slid her fingers on the screen in front of her and simultaneously inputted voice commands. Time and space transfer system, start. Buzz. Accompanied by a violent shake, the robot spacecraft finally stabilized. Zhuang Wu twitched at the corners of his mouth as he looked at the cold white-clothed beauty with a wry smile. Damn it, this is not an attitude to save people at all. Just out of the tiger's den, Yu reading www.uukangshu.net, entering the wolf's den again. And what kind of spatio-temporal transfer system, literally speaking, is it serious? Isn't it just a joke? Zhuang Wu let out a light sigh. Never mind, take it as it comes. As for the outcome, he was indeed saved by this beautiful woman in white, there's nothing to say. Let's first see what her purpose is. Okay, just give thanks and any compensation you can. If it's bad, strike back. Anyway, he always has plenty of time to turn things around. Monthly reading. Driving a red robot, Gates from the future world in 2068 looked at the white robot that had robbed Zhuang Wu midway and recited this name. Why are you trying to stop me? Although he had doubts, Gates's subordinates did not hesitate to activate the space-time transfer system and chase after the white robot that had passed through the space-time wormhole. Before entering the wormhole, he turned around and glanced at the family of three. Eyebrow furrowed. Is it true that the king of Shur returned to protect them from being affected? Just as this idea was about to arise, it was cut off by Gates. No, even if it's true, then what? I didn't have any hatred towards him in this era, but for the future, I must kill him before he becomes a vicious demon king. With this in mind, it doesn't matter what kind of person he is in this era. I know his future very well, so I have enough reasons to kill him, that's enough. Gates's face was once again covered with a determined expression, as he whispered and forcefully pushed the joystick forward. If you want to hate, then hate the future of you, Chengwang. Chapter 3. Dinosaurs and Edo. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. This is you in 50 years, the most ferocious and evil demon king. The white robot landed under the control of the white-clothed beauty. During this parking time, she played a video to Zhuang Wu, which was a video of a man with dark golden armor destroying everything. The charging crowd was overturned, the rampaging robots were torn apart, and all the launched missiles were stuck in mid-air in front of him, without any effect. It's impossible for you to defeat me alone. Do you know why? At the moment when he reached out and clenched his fist to stop everything, against the backdrop of people, missiles, machines, and everything else turning into flying powder, this invincible man declared. Because I was born king. The dominance of Duan is unparalleled. Subsequently, the white-clad beauty who introduced herself as Yuadu pulled the progress bar of the video to the front and paused, pointing to the man wearing dark gold armor in the video and saying the opening sentence. I am this demon king. Is it really fake? Although he is very happy that his dream has been realized, he is still a bit unwilling to accept it in this form. I'll go out and get some air. Stepping out of the cockpit and alone, Zhuang Wu's expression was not as shocked and resistant as it was in front of Yudu, but rather a bit sad. If that's really his words, he does not believe that he will become the most destructive demon king in the mouth of Yudu, only spreading despair. He has great confidence in himself. And that doesn't align with his self-cultivation at all. So, if the person in the video is really the future me, in the future, I must have some reason to do so. What a pity, the future of me, not being understood, a lonely life can be very painful. However, in the present where I already know that such a future exists, will the future mentioned in the monthly reading still exist? Shaking his head, Zhuang Wu threw away these things and looked down at the palm of his raised hand. In addition to the time pauses he has been using all along, in the video, he also uses local time pauses and time acceleration in the future. In other words, it is time acceleration, accelerating the existence time of things to a degree that is enough to make them decay into dust. I'm really amazing, the future me. It's like being able to manipulate time and space at will. Then, it wasn't until then that Zhuang Wu suddenly realized it. The robots attacking him in the video are similar to the white robot he is riding on at this time and the red robot attacking him, as well as the dead humans. Resistance forces. So, the driver of the red robot, will Gates, as mentioned by Moon Reading, want to go back to the past and kill the weak and powerless King Shi, in order to save the future? Yalu, from the perspective of an outsider, I suddenly have some understanding of that crazy guy named Gates. What should I do? But why did the monthly reading, as Gates' companion, actually save him? I don't understand. Taking a long breath of carbon dioxide, Chengwang suddenly looked up and reached out to press into the air. Da-da-da-da, with the sound effect of the clock, the world suddenly came to a standstill. Looking back, Chengwang smiled and felt a little relieved as he confirmed that even the white robot had been paused by the world of time. After all, it is a machine that can travel through time and space, so it is always right to be cautious. Moreover, from the current perspective, it is uncertain when starting the time and space transfer system, but without starting the time and space transfer system, it will still remain stationary in a world where time has stopped. It seems that even if there are 2 more future humans in his world who can shuttle time and space through machines. No, perhaps 3, that ample time, he has still not been diminished. Just a little attention needs to be paid when using it. After all, the Time King, the King of Time and Space, and his ability to hold the certificate of the King, is really too far from touching their minefield. Act well. After all, if she were to be angered and the other party tried to die together, even if they didn't kill him, but instead insisted on dragging him out at this time, he wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Of course, it's not possible to turn it into a fossil from the Cretaceous period, but he can't bear to wait for 50 years, when he also has his future abilities, and then shuttle back. Just imagine the scene where his white-haired self appeared in his high school years, and he couldn't help but tremble. Cold aversion. In this way, Chengwang, who had set the goal of spending time with the monthly readers, calmly enjoyed the scenery around him. Primitive forest vegetation, living large dinosaurs. It's really impressive. Although I have some psychological preparation, I still feel really impressive. Cretaceous period. Shuttle through time and space, arrive at the shattered Cretaceous period, and see living dinosaurs. It's really incredible. Oh, by the way, take a photo and show it back to my uncle. Ha! Where's my phone? He wiped his pocket empty, and then Chengwang remembered that when he called the police earlier, he was so angry that he dropped his phone due to the sudden sound of Gates on his phone. He dropped it. How should I explain this to my uncle? Chengwang hugged his head and looked uncomfortable. However, the magnificent scenery of history before him, along with the rare and impressive dinosaurs, quickly made him forget this unpleasant thing. After climbing trees, crossing rivers, and touching dinosaur eggs with his own hands, Chengwang returned to the location where the white robot landed. Looking at the big dinosaur that had been staring for a long time, Hala Z stopped in mid-air and saw that it was a carnivorous animal. Chengwang cleared his throat, pinched his face, and then waved his hand to let the flow of time return to normal. Ah! Monthly reading. Help! The expression was very frightened, but the movements were a bit perfunctory. He just took 2 steps back to avoid the 2 halas falling from the sky, and Chengwang screamed at the top of his throat. It was quite awesome. Uedu drove a white robot to hammer out the dinosaur that was coming at him with the intention of eating him. Then, as he did when he first met him, the robot became an aircraft to connect with him, and started the space-time transfer system again, leaving the era when dinosaurs dominated the world. Second landing. In 1671, during the Edo period. Due to his dream of becoming a king, Chengwang, who was extremely skilled in history, often flipped through history. He watched as these images, which were previously only visible on pages and screens, turned into reality. To be honest, he was somewhat moved. I sighed for a moment. Chengwang looked at Uedu, who was following him. Just to be safe, I'll make sure again. Monthly reading, are you sure you haven't mistaken the person? Uedu glanced at Chengwang speechlessly, then lowered her head to read the information retrieved from the tablet. Changpan Zhuangwu, born on April 28, 2000, is 18 years old and currently lives in a watch shop owned by his uncle Changpan Shanichiro. He is a third-year student at Guangzhou High School and excels in history. Despite his average grades, he has been serving as a class monitor for 3 consecutive years, earning the trust of his teachers. After reading it, Yuedu looked at Zhuang Wu seriously and said, "Have I investigated in enough detail? Besides, you have seen that Changpan Zhuang Wu's first transformation into a statue, in that video. It looks exactly like you, doesn't it?" "Well, so is it." Zhuang Wu sighed and nodded. "Confirmed. Such a tragic future. It's really me. The lonely king, carrying everything alone, is not understood by anyone. Ah. My future self, how terrifying and difficult are the enemies you need to be wary of and face. It has led you, who is invincible, onto such a lonely path. Or is it that the next 50 years of my life, which I have never experienced before, will make me accustomed to loneliness, to carrying it on my own, to not being understood, and then to never explaining it to others again? In the end, I will become a domineering person who, no matter what other people's thoughts are, if they are correct, even if they are forced to follow. Think back on your past. Ever since childhood, whenever someone refutes a dream, when I grow up, I only argue a little bit, until now." The silent response. Zhuang Wu couldn't help but let out a bitter smile. Oh no, he actually had a bit of faith. "So, we need to change it," Zhuang Wu said seriously to Yuedu. "I won't become the Demon King." "That's great. But I will become a king." Monthly reading. Chapter 4. Conversations that occurred during the Edo period. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh, by the way, Yuedu, you said you were Gate's companion, right? So why did you choose to save me, who also hates the Demon King? Because I'm still watching. Watch and see. Yes, look at you in this era. If you are innocent in this era, I cannot kill you just because you will commit a crime in the future. But if you are an incurable person in this era, it would be better for you to die earlier. Oh. And what about the result? A third-year high school student who doesn't strive for a strange dream. Ha. I always feel like I've been demoted to nothing by you. So, am I safe? Will you give up being king? I don't know. So I'm starting to regret saving you. Zhuang Wu. So, whether or not I'm a damn bad guy right now, as long as I haven't given up on becoming king, will you be unable to resist wanting to kill me? The only difference is that one can immediately make up its mind to take action, while the other is only thinking temporarily, not directly going up. So, in order to ensure my complete safety, should I deceive her a little bit? Zhuang Wu thought for a moment, then sighed helplessly. Really, only in the dream area, he doesn't want to lie. By the way, how many times did he sigh today? Talking about the future, it's really a bunch of big troubles. Let's change the topic. So, what topic is the most stimulating for girls? Zhuang Wu looked up and down at Yuedu, then suddenly asked, Yuedu, do you have a boyfriend? Ha. Well, you're so beautiful, you should have it now. So, is that Gates? I don't have that kind of relationship with him. Oh, that's just not there. What does it have to do with you? Besides, why are you suddenly asking this? Because I am a single dog. When I see beautiful girls, of course I am curious about this. Is it strange? Monthly reading. I'm ignoring you. Watching Yuedu walking away quickly in the crimson blush on his face, Zhuang Wu raised an eyebrow and smiled. Are you shy? He had been expressionless all along. He thought this was a very cold girl. It seems that he guessed wrong. Also, who would have thought that the woman who calmly deals with various situations in battle would have such a side? I always feel very cute. Wait for me. Zhuang Wu chased after Yuedu and finally came to a tea stall to sit down. Looking at Yu calmly ordering tea with the waiter, Chengwang couldn't help but raise his hand and greet her, gesturing for her to come over. As he looked at Yu with a puzzled expression on his face, Chengwang could only lean over on his own and whispered in Yu's ear, "Oh, why did you order something? Do you have currency from this era? Extend your hand." Chengwang. What? Although it was strange why Yu said so, Chengwang still extended his hand. Moon reading, with her light and flowing clothes, doesn't seem like she has a pocket for carrying money. What does she want to do? Shake hands, congratulations. Did I pay attention to the key points? Then he saw Moon reading hang the tablet in his hand above the palm of his hand, operate it twice, and when the copper coin was displayed on the screen, hold down the picture of the copper coin with his fingers, and then swipe down while Chengwang has an extra currency in his hand that can be spent in this era. At that time, Chengwang was shocked and his mouth opened in an O shape. How impressive. It's so amazing, okay. Undoubtedly the technology of the future, it is NB. That's definitely not a simple tablet. What is the principle? Energy manifestation. This thing is really black technology. Can I play? Chengwang looked forward to reading the Moon. Of course. Thank you. As long as you don't say such foolish things as wanting to become a king anymore. Well, let's just forget about it. Chengwang looked at Yu helplessly, his mouth twitching. You're really thinking about this every moment. Of course, after all, that's my goal. Shaking his head, Chengwang summoned the waiter to order a cup of tea and snacks, and then put all the copper coins in his hand into the waiter's hand. I've given it all to you, is that enough? Enough, thank you. The waiter happily bowed and gestured to step back. He quickly brought over the tea and snacks he ordered. Pick up the tea cup, take a beautiful sip, and finally pick up the tea and put it into your mouth. Ah, that's it, the wonderful atmosphere of history. A book that satisfies. At this moment, the sound of commotion came from not far away, as if someone was fighting, and the crowd kept surrounding. Chengwang and Yu also walked over together. As he walked, Chengwang was still twisting his fingers and wrists, moving his muscles and bones. What are you doing? Moon reading asked in confusion. So what's the point? Of course it's to stop them. As he spoke, Chengwang gave a big smile to Yu and then shouted to the center of the crowd, "Hey! Have you guys had enough trouble? There must be a limit to causing trouble." The attention of the onlookers was immediately drawn. Including those people who are fighting. The crowd dispersed on both sides, causing Chengwang and Yu to face each other head-on with a few people fighting. Pooh! Due to being hit on the nose, the tall bald man with nosebleeds looked at Chengwang and Yu, these two young boys and girls, and his already intense emotions immediately intensified. What do you want? Chengwang. With a reassuring look at Yu, who was pulling his clothes, Chengwang smiled heartily and said, "I'm here to argue." You little boy. Are you looking down on us? Don't underestimate the craftsmen of the Edo period. Let his head calm down. Shouting like this, they stopped fighting and instead worked together to charge towards Chengwang's side. Chengwang also greeted him with a smile. Bang! Pop! Ah! A few seconds later, Chengwang shook his hands and turned around, looking at the few people lying on the ground who couldn't stand up for a while. How are you? Have you calmed down a bit? Calm down, calm down. Will we fight again in the future? No more fighting, no more fighting. That's right, fighting is not right. Harmony is the most important thing. Clapping his hands, Chengwang smiled brightly at the moon and said, "Look, the incident has been perfectly resolved." As this sentence fell, there was an immediate commotion and applause around. Although the incident was resolved, monthly reading seemed very angry. Indeed, it is the Demon King. Hey! Chengwang listened in confusion. Why are you angry? Did I act out of line? Speaking of which, you have investigated in such detail. It's only because I acted weakly at this time that I had more problems. I really don't understand women's thoughts. Zhuang Wu is thinking about how to remedy it. At this moment, the riot has reoccurred. Monster! With this frightened shout, the crowd screamed and quickly fled. Chapter 5. The Knights of the Other World Crossing the World. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Monthly reading. Following the direction of the first shout, a person wearing red armor and a mask was seen aggressively pushing away the crowd blocking the way, walking slowly towards them. Is it difficult to do this? It's just that. Ah, that's right. This is what Gates looks like after transforming. I've already mentioned it before, he plans to eliminate you before you gain the power of the king, so. Hurry up and run. Grasping Zhuang Wu's hand, Yu Du pulled him towards the external location where the white robot had parked before. Oh. Zhuang Wu's eyes sparkled as he looked at Yu Du, who was pulling him away. He said regret to this girl, but after facing a crisis, he still chose to save her as soon as possible, with a happy smile on his face. Thank you, monthly reading. Don't talk nonsense, Yu Du said angrily. If you're really grateful to me, give up your idea of wanting to become a king. Sorry, monthly reading. That's that, this is this, it doesn't affect each other, but. If you can save me every time in such a crisis like this, even if I don't have to use Wang Zhili, it's possible. Hey. Really? Of course. Zhuang Wu squinted his eyes and smiled happily as he replied. Assuming you can really do it, my lovely girl, monthly reading. With such joyful thoughts, he turned his head to look at Gates who was chasing him, his gaze focused on the belt around his waist, as well as the very familiar-looking watch fastened on the belt. I see. He probably knows how to use the watch that suddenly appeared next to him. But speaking of it, I was really happy today. As the moon reading quickly crawled into the white robot cockpit, Zhuang Wu grabbed onto the fixture while recalling with a light heart. A beautiful encounter, a magical time and space travel, Cretaceous, Edo period, meeting dinosaurs, beating ancient people. Most importantly, also learning about the future where one's dreams will definitely come true, Watching Moon Reading skillfully activate the space-time transfer system and manipulate the robot to escape into the wormhole, Zhuang Wu couldn't help but chuckle to himself. Of course, the only downside is that someone has been relentlessly pursuing him. However, perhaps because he knew the causes and consequences, understood Gates' thoughts, and did not have much negative emotions towards Gates' bang. At this moment, the deformed exterior of the white robot's aircraft suddenly suffered a violent impact, and the cockpit shook violently, with piercing warning sounds echoing incessantly. Zhuang Wu didn't catch up and fell to the ground. He twitched at the corner of his mouth as he looked at the red exclamation mark displayed on the screen, taking a deep breath. Deep breathing is useless. No way. I need to retract the previous words. He thought angrily. That bastard, you definitely have to beat him up. Bang. Another violent impact caused the white robot driven by the moon reader to suddenly fall out of the space-time wormhole, wobbling and falling unsteadily towards the ground. In the end, it narrowly regained balance within 2 meters of the ground. At this moment, Zhuang Wu suddenly extended his hand. Da-da-da-da, the world suddenly came to a standstill. In this still world, Zhuang Wu, who could relax freely, suddenly lay on the ground. Being dignified is for others to see, and in this world where time revolves around him alone, it's like being at home, where he can freely release himself. After resting for a while, Zhuang Wu got up and walked to the driver's seat. He waved his palm in front of Yu Du and watched her expression remain still, her eyes unblinking. He found it very interesting and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Of course, with just a smile, he shifted his gaze to the screen of the operating robot. Continuing with the previous experiment, it was quite nostalgic that the white robot that activated the spatiotemporal transfer system was not affected by its stopping force, and in this case, the person driving it also enjoyed the immune stopping buff. This is the conclusion he obtained by pausing the world for 2 seconds before leaving the Cretaceous period and entering the space-time wormhole for the second time. As for stopping playing in the wormhole of time and space, forget it. There, stopping time is not called stopping time, but freezing an entire timeline. He would never try this kind of thing until he had the ability to control time and space in the future. However, outside of the wormhole, it is naturally taboo. It was through the continuous pause of the monthly reading operation that Zhuang Wu probably learned how to operate this robot. According to memory, Zhuang Wu pressed the button to open the cabin door. Drop, the cabin door is open. Zhuang Wu then pressed the button to close the door again. This time, there was no movement in the cabin door, but the order to close was only executed after he jumped out of the cockpit. Although he cannot freely specify things to pause like his future self, he can freely specify things to cancel pauses. The crescent moon at night is very charming. With one hand in the pocket, looking up at the moon, after walking away, Zhuang Wu pressed his thumb and middle finger together, making a snap of his finger. Pop. The flow rate of time returned to normal. According to the time he saw on the screen, there is still 1 month left until he meets the red robot at UU reading www.uukangshu.net. During this month's time, he naturally cannot return to the 9 to 5 hall, otherwise he will collide with the current him. So here comes the question. Where will I stay this month? Take out a watch from your pocket that has been transformed into a white edge with a built.in mask and a 2018 number written on it. Throw it up and take it down. But he didn't notice and collided with a guy who was also looking down and didn't see the way. Hey! It hurts so much. Kala, the watch rolled to the ground, and Zhuang Wu covered his forehead, while the other side covered his nose. Oh, sorry, I was just thinking about something. Are you okay? Zhuang Wu apologized first. After all, the other person looked up with their nose covered, as if they had been hit with nosebleeds. It's okay, there's no need to apologize. I'm also quite embarrassed because I didn't see the way. The man looking up had a timely expression of apology on his face, but because he was looking up, Zhuang Wu only saw a little, but it was enough. A very nice person. This judgment is easy to make. Thinking about it, Zhuang Wu took out a paper bag from his pocket and handed a tissue to the man across from him. Here, tissues, please use them. Oh, thank you, it was a big help. The man took the tissue and tore it open in the middle. Half wiped his nose first, and the other half tore it open again in the middle, rolling it up and blocking his nose. At this moment, Zhuang Wu bent down to pick up the watch that had fallen on the ground, staring blankly at the two lying on the ground. However, it was clear that they were of the same type, and he was deeply puzzled. Chapter 6. Abnormal Stop and Build. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Picking up two watches together, Zhuang Wu looked at the man across from him in confusion. Is it a future person? While inquiring, I was prepared to stop running at any time. Afraid that the other party would suddenly pull out their belt, shout, transform. Die, Chengwang, and then punch him. Fortunately, that terrible situation did not occur. Ha! Future people. The man, who was covering his nose, lowered his head slightly and asked in surprise, his expression not fake. His name is Tongxing Zhantu and he is a Kamen Rider build. In his world, he encountered an enemy with the power to crush the earth, a Brut. In order to completely overthrow Abbott, save the earth, and achieve a happy end where no one will be injured, he and his assistant, Wanzhong Long, went through countless hardships and finally merged his world with the world without Abbott, completing the new world and arriving in the new world. Although this led to a significant decrease in danger levels and almost all full bottles and cans were lost, he did not feel that there was anything bad about it in this peaceful, war-free, and no longer fighting world. Just now, Tongxing Zhantu looked at Xuanwu with a red forehead and thought somewhat ominously. Damn it, this person won't be fooled by me, will they? Although the danger level has significantly decreased, there is still a level 3 level, and a real collision is unbearable for most people. But on second thought, he still has nosebleeds, so he doesn't seem to have the right to worry about someone else's condition. And also, to be honest, his current background as a person from another world is on par with that of a future person. Therefore, after being puzzled, he did not immediately refute Zhuang Wu, but sought verification. Why do you say that? Taking the watch that suddenly appeared on him after he arrived in this world, Zhan Tu couldn't help but look at the same watch in the other person's hand like Zhuang Wu, while asking questions. Can you say? Well, I've seen a future person who shuttled back and forth from 2068, and he transformed using this kind of watch. If you insist, by the way, he's like a Kamen rider. Finally, I thought of how to describe the way Gates transformed, Zhuang Wu said with a smile. However, this term is not so enjoyable for the war rabbits who have fought all the way and finally arrived in the new world. Kamen, Knight. It is both identity and responsibility. Hero, hope, savior. It can be said that people have infused many beautiful decorations into this term, and thus they have shouldered many heavy responsibilities that can crush ordinary people. I never expected to hear this extremely familiar vocabulary again in the new world, and Zhan Tu's mood suddenly became extremely complex. Yes, just like the Kamen Rider drive, X-Aid, transforming into wearing armor and wearing a mask on the head. Wait. Wait, wait. Upon hearing the familiar name again, Zhan Tu's mouth twitched and he quickly stopped Zhuang Wu. You just said X-Aid, right? Well, I said, is there any problem? No, but you let me digest it first. This incident has really had a significant impact on me. Zhan Tu Fu-yi, the news he received in just a moment made him realize that he had to re-examine this new world. Speaking of which, where is Wan Zhang? He's so slow. Did he swim in the toilet? Really? It's terrible. Zhan Tu scratched his hair hard and said in distress. He never thought before. It turns out that this is the world of Yongmeng and his companions. Speaking of which, they even worked hard to prevent the fusion of the two worlds. However, in the end, he worked hard and quietly completed the fusion of the two worlds. How awkward would it be if we meet again? Zhuang Wu looked at the war rabbit, whose hair had been scratched in a mess at this moment, with its hair tips upright, and his face was completely bewildered. In the case of unequal information, he naturally cannot understand the distress of Zhan Tu at this time. And at that moment, he suddenly widened his eyes and looked around, his expression full of disbelief. What's going on here? Basketball court. A man is playing basketball. A less precise shot, the basketball hits the edge of the basket, then lands diagonally and rolls off the court. The man quickly chased in the direction of the basketball rolling down, but as he picked up the basketball and stood up, he saw a car colliding with him. The piercing brake sound sounded, but it was unable to stop the car's inertia in a short period of time, and that inertia speed was enough to knock it off in the next second. The man closed his eyes in terror and welcomed the impending tragic future in fear. At this moment, da-da-da-da, accompanied by the sound of the watch needle moving. The moving car suddenly comes to a standstill, including other vehicles and pedestrians around it. I've decided, it's you. A boy wearing a blue shirt and blue shorts slowly walked out from behind the car. Upon hearing the voice of the young man, the man opened his eyes and looked at the car parked in front of him, almost colliding with him by a hair's breadth. He exclaimed in fear. What? What happened? The heart seemed to be about to jump out of the chest, and the shadow of death kept playing. According to the original history, you would be here and run over by this car. The young man smiled proudly, bent down to pick up the basketball on the ground, held it in his arms, and walked over to the man, saying, "But if you agree to form a contract with me." Will you save me? Exactly so. Throwing away the useless basketball, the blue-clad boy squatted next to the man and took out a watch with a pattern similar to that of a war rabbit, but definitely not the same, tempting to read. How about it? Which one do you want to choose? Contract. Or death? For men, there is obviously only one answer. I understand, I promise you. He took the watch from the boy's hand, swallowed his saliva, and continued speaking. Sign the contract. The young man immediately showed a satisfied smile. Ha ha ha, you are such a good child who knows current affairs. Waving his hand, he moved the car in front of the man with a strange force to one side. The boy in blue reached out and grabbed the hand of the man holding the watch, while the other hand helped him press the button on the watch. Contract signing, starting from today, you are the Kamen Rider Build. Build. Accompanied by the sound effects ringing from the watch. The boy in blue exerted force on his hand and pressed the watch directly towards the man's chest. A strange thing happened, the watch directly integrated into the man's body in the dark purple light, and the man, in the midst of painful screams, turned into a strange person with red and blue colors. Go collect everything you want. Amidst the laughter of the young man's blessings, the strange person staggered away. At this moment, Chengwang, who was extremely clear that he had not used the outdated stop just now, experienced a world of intermittent stops. His inner emotions surged, and for a moment, like Jean too, he also fell into a temporary shutdown state. Chapter 7. Desire for Belt Drive. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There are so many people in the restroom. Oh. War Rabbit. What's wrong with you? Who else is this guy? I finally freed myself from the long queue, with a face full of sighs and comfort. As soon as I returned, I saw Jean too squatting low on the street, as if doubting the melancholy of life. His head was covered in dark clouds, and next to him was a stranger in the same state. Oh, it's 10,000 Jean. Upon hearing my voice, Jean too finally regained consciousness from the blow. This person is. What's your name? He followed my question and was about to introduce Chengwang, but suddenly realized that although they had been squatting together for a while, they had never asked each other's names. Chengwang blinked and looked innocently at the war rabbit, took a deep breath, and then spat out. Who? I have decided to temporarily keep this abnormal shutdown event in my heart, Chengwang said with a smile. My name is Changpan Chengwang, just call me Chengwang, you're welcome. My name is Tongxing Zhantu, and this is my assistant. Who is your assistant? I was originally waiting for Jean Tu to introduce myself to the Wanzhong dragon, but I suddenly interrupted Jean Tu and introduced myself. My name is Wanzhong Longmi, Wanzhong Longmi. You can call me whatever you think is convenient. After speaking, he looked at the war rabbit. So, what happened to you just now? War rabbit. Is there anything else that can make you so distressed now? After finally defeating Abbott and completing the integration with the new world, here, although the comrades who fought together before forgot about them, they all lived well, whether it was Phantom or Chris, so, what are you worrying about? Jean Tu looked back at the question in Wanzhong Long's eyes and said with a bitter smile, Wanzhong, do you still remember Yong Meng and them? Hey! Eternal Dream. Is the Kamen Rider X-Aid? I asked in surprise, 10,000 Zhang Long. How could I possibly forget? Because I learned from them, as a Kamen Rider, what should I fight for? Yes, we also prevented the fusion of our world and Eternal Dream's world together, preventing the world crisis caused by the collision of the two worlds, right? That's right. As I was speaking, I was suddenly taken aback by the towering dragon. Hey! It's me asking you a question, why did it become me answering your question? Fool! Don't dwell on such trivial matters. The point is, I just learned that this world is the world of eternal dreams. Who is a fool? Subconsciously retorted, and when I realized what Zhan Tu had said, the expression on Long's face was taken aback. Ha! Wait a moment. What are you saying? This is Yongmen's world. That's right. How did you know? I told him. Upon hearing this, Zhuang Wu finally had the opportunity to interject and said with a smile. Unexpectedly, I was startled by both the war rabbit and the dragon. Whoa. Are you still there? You haven't left yet. I said both Zhan Tu and Long at the same time. Hey. I've been there all along, haven't I moved, okay? Zhuang Wu immediately showed an injured expression. I'll go. Emotions, you just immersed yourself in forgetting that there is still someone like me who exists. Do I have such a low sense of existence? Fortunately, thanks to this, he heard something very interesting. People from other worlds. Still a Kamen rider from another world. So impressive. Nah, can you tell me in detail about things in your world? Zhuang Wu asked curiously. As an exchange, I can use the intelligence of this world as an exchange. Also, I can tell you about the future people. Upon hearing Zhuang Wu's words, I and Tongsheng Zhantu exchanged a glance at each other. Wanzhong Dragon Me. Future people. Is he joking? Tongsheng Zhantu. No, that seems to be true. It's a genius's intuition, and I think it can be exchanged. Wanzhong Dragon Me. That's it. Originally, we wanted to weave it into a story and spread it out. Tongsheng Zhantu. Retract your gaze. Zhan Tu and Long, I divided into two sides and surrounded Zhuang Wu. Then, one by one, I placed my arm on Zhuang Wu's shoulder and walked around him to the side where there was no one, tree shade, and a seat. Hey, Zhuang Wu, right. Let's take a walk and have a good chat over there. August 2018 at the same time. The moon reading machine that found Zhuang Wu missing stopped the white robot, opened the cabin door, and walked out from it. Changpan Zhuang Wu. Moon reading looked around and shouted loudly in front of the empty road. The empty surroundings were filled with echoes. When? She asked herself in a low voice, her eyebrows furrowed tightly. However, no matter what she thought, there was no memory of Zhuang Wu leaving. September 2018 9 in the morning and 5 in the evening. Zhuang Wu's uncle, Shunichiro Changpan, opened the newspaper and looked at the consecutive missing events of sports players marked in black bars. He couldn't help but sigh and was worried about Zhuang Wu, who had been out since the morning and has not returned yet. So he picked up the phone and dialed Zhuang Wu's phone. Doo-doo, after two loud noises, the phone was successfully connected. Hello. Uncle, what's up? Shunichiro Chang's face showed a relaxed expression of relief, but he said calmly. Ah, it's like this, Zhuang Wu. When you come back, remember to bring a bottle of soy sauce. UU reading www.uukangshu.net is the brand we commonly use. August 2018 Parks. After listening to the story of War Rabbit and Dragon Me, Zhuang Wu also shared the information he knew almost without reservation. Whether it's the story of the Kamen Rider drive that was reported a few years ago in my memory, or the gaming sickness that sparked a big controversy the year before, or the special doctors who were born to transform into Kamen Riders in order to cure gaming sickness. In addition to retaining the fact that he would become the great demon king who would destroy the world in the future, he also briefly explained the story of Gates who came from 2068 to the present day. Zhuang Wu gradually gained new admiration for these two extraterrestrial people who had just arrived in this world a few days ago. If what they said was true. Divided into three parts by the walls of the sky, the island nation fights against each other with the intention of destroying the Earth and enhancing its own strength as a powerful extraterrestrial enemy, a fabricated false hero, a human parasitized by extraterrestrial factors, a group of masked knights with their own fighting beliefs. This is a somewhat sad story about heroes. Because the hero who ultimately saved the world, forgotten by everyone. Zhuang Wu looked thoughtfully at the full bottles and jars in his hand, then turned his gaze to the 3 watches in my hands, Zhan 2 and Long Build watch, Cross.Z watch, and his ZIO watch. Zhan 2, I have a request. He handed back 3 full bottles of rabbits, tanks, and dragons to War Rabbit and Dragon Me, and then looked at War Rabbit's eyes with utmost sincerity and said, "Please, can you help me make a belt drive that can use these watches?" Chapter 8. Chengwang Fund and Warehouse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Can it be? I am also interested in the technical principles of this watch equipment, but... Faced with Zhuang Wu's request, Zhan Tu said helplessly. For this world, we are at most just 2 outsiders, who have just arrived for 2 days. Not to mention being an experimental base, we are almost running out of money for meals. Where can we find the funds to research and develop corresponding belt drivers? That's to say, I plan to return to my old job and fight to support him. This guy has no survival ability except for conducting research, I interjected. As 2 world-class black experts, Zhan Tu is indeed unable to apply for a position in the research institute until the identity issue is resolved, so what I said about Wan's Hanglong is also true. But can this be admitted? Zhan Tu suddenly punched him in frustration. Alright, by the way, isn't the money for these 2 days' meals earned by selling my previous inventions as toys? Wow. That's also what I set up a stall to sell, okay. I put my hands in my pockets and looked down upon him. Zhan Tu snorted and ignored him, turning his head to continue speaking to Zhuang Wu. Can you provide funding, laboratory, and these? I can't provide it. Zhuang Wu let out a deep sigh and looked up at the sky in silence. As early as the moment Zhan Tu mentioned the financial issue, the hopeful expression on his face had gradually disappeared. To be reasonable, he has thought about many factors that limit his ability to use ZIO watches, but he has never thought that it could be because of poverty. Is this too realistic? Zhuang Wu stared at the sky with a pair of dead fish eyes. A deep sense of powerlessness filled the whole body. Well, it seems we can only wait honestly. But the question is, how did my future self obtain a belt drive? When will he wait? Except for this, it's just a matter of eating and sleeping. By the way, War Rabbit, Dragon Eye, are you really not planning to join the Kamen Rider X-Aid? If we go find him. No way. Zhuang Wu didn't finish speaking when I interrupted him. It's too awkward. Zhan Tu also holds the same opinion on this issue. I also agree that it's better not to meet until you're mentally prepared. What do we say when we meet? Hi Yong Meng, we're meeting again. How have you been lately? Oh, it's Kamen Rider Build and Cross.Z. Are you all traveling to my world? No, we're actually here to tell you that this used to be your world, but now it's also ours. Ha ha ha, thinking of this, Zhan Tu and Long made me shudder uncontrollably. Aversion to cold. I feel like I deserve to be beaten no matter what I think. It's better to maintain the good impression we first met. Faced with such a stubborn and face-saving couple, Zhuang Wu sighed and took out his wallet. Sigh. Forget it, I'll come up with a solution. After crossing over a month later, in order to avoid colliding with his past self and unable to return home for the time being, Zhuang Wu's gaze gradually became firm as he thought about the Qingqing fund he had accumulated over the past decade. I have already become aware, now is the right time. Raising soldiers for 1,000 days, using them for a while. It's time to kill the pig. September 2018, 9 in the morning and 5 in the evening. Oh, have you arrived yet? Chang Panshunichiro opened the package he had just signed for from the courier and looked at the large piggy bank inside, which was both funny and helpless. Before, I had to say that my Qingqing fund was missing, causing a lot of noise for 2 days. Really, you still blame me? I asked if I secretly hid it. Is uncle like this? Didn't you run out of pocket money and secretly spend it? Lifting up the piggy bank, Shinichiro Chang placed it on the table in Zhuang Wu's room and smiled, patting the pig's head and saying, "Hee, I'll buy you another one." After some thought, he returned to his room and took some large banknotes to stuff in. "By the way, may I sponsor you?" "There's nothing more to say now, right?" August 2018. Although saved by signing a contract with the blue-clad youth, the basketball youth themselves have become almost irrational monsters, relying solely on instinctive desires to collect the abilities of various athletes. He is like a clumsy person, stubbornly pursuing the best combination of builds, playing the role of build, but also imitating the ugly and full of flaws. Without reason, he kept walking on the streets in a strange posture, attacking the athletes he encountered. All kinds of actions are undisguised. But strangely enough, apart from the victims, there seemed to be no one who had seen him afterwards. Whether on the internet or in the media, there were only cases of athletes missing consecutively, without any reports of strange people. It's like the images of strange people will automatically disappear from people's memories. Specially choosing a morning to go to school, Zhuang Wu immediately came out of the corner and quickly entered the 9 to 5 hall after witnessing his current self go out. Originally, as long as he stopped his time, he could easily enter and complete the pig-killing plan. But the previous abnormal pause really caught his attention, so he didn't use the power of pause. There are others who have the power to pause time. Every time he thinks about this question, he feels a bit overwhelmed. As for why it is so certain that it is someone else rather than himself at different times, the evidence is that he suddenly had 2 abnormal and intermittent memories in his memory, which are his new memories of the past month, for the next month. He only stopped once during this time, so the other time naturally belongs to someone else. So the question arises: his intervention in the past has generated a new history, memory, and the power of time has allowed him to preserve the memories of these 2 histories. So what did another person, or multiple people who also have the power of stopping, do at this point in time? What has changed history again? Let's get to the point. As soon as he saw Zhuang Wu returning, Chang Panshanilang immediately asked in confusion. "Hey! Zhuang Wu, didn't you go to school? Did you say you didn't take anything?" Yes, it's like this." "So what, uncle, you're busy, don't worry about me." As he spoke, Zhuang Wu quickly ran back to his room, picked up his golden pig, avoided the gaze of Shinichiro Chang, and secretly took it out. For over a decade, whenever there was any pocket money left every day, he would throw it into a golden pig. At first, it was coins, and after filling them up, he would pour them out one by one. After counting them, he would exchange them with his uncle for large denomination banknotes. Gradually, his uncle bought him another golden pig, and the change he usually saved was a golden pig. After saving it up, he handed it over to his uncle, and the large amount of paper money he exchanged was put into another golden pig. The change continued to be put into the change golden pig. This time, the one he moved away was the golden pig with large banknotes. Only that golden pig can be called the King Ching Fund. With this money, he and Jean Tu and the others found an abandoned warehouse and rented it at a cheap price from the boss. Looking around the empty warehouse, Zhuang Wu's enthusiasm suddenly surged. "I've decided, let's build the laboratory here." Chapter 9. A quietly passing month. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, Zhuang Wu. Faced with Zhuang Wu's passionate expression, Jean Tu and Long exchanged a glance and smiled helplessly. "Since you have reached this level, I will make you an equipment that can stimulate the power of the watch." "Hey! Really?" Faced with the promise of the genius physicist Tongxing Zhantu, Zhuang Wu was extremely happy. "Thank you so much." "No, it's nothing, you're the one who's really helping." Jean Tu waved his hand and said. "Yeah, don't be polite, you know we slept in the park yesterday." "Well, Wan Zhang is right, so don't be polite. Besides, I am also very interested in the technology of these watches myself. The matter has been settled like this. What equipment will be made? Sword. Gun. Ah. I'm really looking forward to it. With this in mind, Zhuangwu began to follow Zhantu in purchasing essential laboratory supplies and materials for manufacturing equipment. Computer, toolbox. Well, so far, the purchases are still quite normal. Then, an oven bought from a second-hand store, a pile of circuit boards washed from a scrap shop, a few shells collected from the scrap yard, a bag of toys ordered online. As these items were purchased, Zhuangwu's savings gradually decreased, and his mood gradually became confused. Unable to understand. I completely understand that I can't. As a physics junkie, Zhuangwu couldn't imagine how to operate the War Rabbit in order to use these. These things gave him a device that could stimulate the power of the ZIO watch. But out of trust, he still acquiesced to the continued collection of War Rabbit and always maintained financial support. Time passed by day, except for the first day when he and Wanzhanglong helped to contact the communication company to pull the network cable. The rest of the time was almost entirely spent fishing. A fool, a science fool, not causing trouble is already a big help, isn't it? You should know that just looking at the dazzling and constantly increasing lines of equations written by Zhantu on the blackboard, they already have a feeling of fainting. During this period, the oven was dismantled and then rebuilt, named the purification processing box. Zhantu constantly uses it to perform final processing on the semi-finished products he makes. However, the results are always unsatisfactory. So it lasted for about half a month. The door of the purification processing box suddenly popped open, revealing the fist holster that was interwoven with white and black throughout. Done. Looking at the fist holster, the War Rabbit sitting on the stool got up excitedly, curled up a pinch of hair, and walked quickly to the purification processing box with a smile, taking out the fist holster from it. Decided, this is called the ZIO explosive fist set. Holding his hands high, Zhantu excitedly spoke quickly. Amazing. Amazing. I'm a genius, right? Then, he calmed down and smiled as he handed the holster to Zhuangwu. Give it a try, Zhuangwu. According to my calculations, this glove should be able to activate some of the watch's power. However, due to the influence of materials, the energy it can withstand is limited. Please be careful when using it. Oh, I got it. Zhuangwu was stunned as he took the fist holster from Zhantu's hand. Is this done yet? He twitched his lips and lowered his head, looking at the fist in his hand. For a moment, he was in awe of the title of War Rabbit Genius Physicist. Sleeping slot. Please forgive my lack of vocabulary. It's really your black technology. I can only use these two words to fully express the surging emotions in my heart at this moment. Without saying a word, Zhuangwu took a deep breath, put on his fist, grabbed the ZIO watch, turned the dial, and pressed the button. ZIO in the sound effect of the watch, it was placed in the groove on the back of the ZIO explosive fist holster. Click. With the sound of biting, an indescribable sensation made Zhuangwu completely excited. Wow, oh, 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 oh. He quickly ran to the outside of the warehouse, found a big tree, and then punched it up. Finish time. Bang. Click. The big tree snapped in response to the sound. So powerful. So powerful, Battle Rabbit. Zhuangwu turned around and looked at Zhantu, with an excited smile on his face that remained unchanged. My work, that's for sure. Zhantu is not humble at all, nor does he need to return humbly. At the same time, as I watched Zhuangwu caress his fist holster with a satisfied and excited expression on his face, I really wanted to find something to hammer, and said in silence. Are you so happy? It's just a boxing ring. Hee, when you got the lava fist set, you weren't much better, were you? You idiot, ha. Don't call me a fool. And I don't have one. During their conversation, the two of them left Zhuangwu, who was excited and unable to bear the new equipment, and turned back to the warehouse. August 17, 2018. The boy in blue was hanging behind the strange person not far or near. The person who fled in terror upon seeing the strange person returned to normal steps when passing by, as if the person who had panicked earlier was not themselves. The memory has been erased. Hee, you can't expose my build now. He smiled and said. It's still growing, and I don't want some meddlesome people to come and get in the way. There are still many Kamen riders left in this world. And coincidentally, all Kamen riders enjoy meddling, without exception. September 2, 2018. It's not easy. Early in the morning, Zhuang Wu, who woke up from bed at UU reading www.uukangshu.net, looked at the date he had circled in red and smiled happily. Finally. 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 You can go home now, Get up and wash up, put on the clothes that have already been washed and dried. He, who is about to shuttle back to the past today, was wearing the same clothes and a thin shirt he bought during this period. Say goodbye to Zhan Tu and Long, and Zhuang Wu ran out the door. Wanzhang, what did he just say? Like a confused big child, with sleepy eyes open, Zhan Tu sat up from the bed with a face full of confusion. He asked me, Zhan Tu, the 10,000 Zhang dragon still lying in bed. Probably, it means he's going home. Oh, it's like this. That's great. Lying down on the bed again, Zhan Tu kicked me like a dragon. Then go sleep over there quickly, don't squeeze here. Don't make a fuss. Let me sleep until I'm full. Scratching my chest, I have no intention of leaving. Soon, there was no movement on the side of Zhan Tuesday. In no time, 2 sleeping snores rang out again. Out of the warehouse. Wear a pre-prepared hat and mask. Zhuang Wu ran towards the path he usually exercises on. He, who has not yet traveled through time, is exercising there, and when he finished exercising and replenished his fluids by the pool, the watch silently appeared in his hand. Haha, he wants to take a look, that watch, how on earth did he appear in his hands without a sound? Chapter 10. The gear of time bites here. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at himself from afar, who had just finished drinking water and was about to shake his hand, Zhuang Wu's eyes blinked without blinking, focusing all his energy on the palm of his own hand, which had never traveled through time. Water droplets dripped from the palm of the hand, reflecting colorful flames in the early morning sunlight. At this moment, Zhuang Wu's eyes suddenly widened to the fullest. In his empty hands at that time, a white light suddenly burst forth. Immediately afterwards, a black watch appeared in his hand. Having witnessed this historic moment with his own eyes, Zhuang Wu remained silent for a moment, lowered his gaze, and then a smile that couldn't help but smile appeared on his face. It's great to be able to witness this scene with my own eyes. It was not someone who entrusted this power to him, but the power of the king chose him. It seems destined that I will embark on the path of becoming a king, because... He turned around and ran away in the morning light. I was born a king. In the afternoon. After a long absence, Zhuang Wu got on his small bike and timed his time. He rode past an upward staircase. During this time, he unintentionally turned his head and saw his self at the time, talking to a person wearing gray clothes, with a scarf wrapped around his head like a hood. Be careful of the red robot. He still remembers the warning that the man in gray clothes and a scarf told him at the time. Because in the future, he at that time will be pursued by gates, which left an extremely deep impression on him. Of course, besides that, he was also very interested in how the man disappeared and left at that time. At this moment dingling. The car bell suddenly rang out without anyone operating it. Right now. Zhuang Wu quickly turned his head and used his gaze to capture the view. I saw the man in gray clothes caressing his chest and bowing down, then pulling off his scarf and waving it in an instant. Suddenly, the scarf stretched like rubber, dancing like a water snake, controlled to roll and contract towards himself. Then, he disappeared completely like a master magician who had transformed into a living person. Wow, so amazing. I guessed correctly at the time. Is it true that scarves have become perfect? Hee hee. After a slight sigh at the magical ability of the scarf man, another explanation was given to his original curiosity. Zhuang-Wu naturally turned his head back and rode his bike away with a happy mood. In no time, he heard the giant's footsteps on the earth and the exclamation of his own self at that time. The chase has begun and a magical journey of time and space is right ahead. Zhuang-Wu chuckled and whispered his blessings to his then self. Have a pleasant journey, me from the past. Yo, looking out in the corner, watching the white robot driven by the moon reading rescue him, and watching two robots that could shuttle time and space pass through the wormhole one after another, Zhuang-Wu rode his bicycle with a relaxed face to the place where he dropped his phone at that time, picking up the scarred phone. Sigh. Zhuang-Wu looked at it silently. Who knows why I dropped him back then? Now it's okay, we still need to go fix it. Fortunately, he has recently met a super talented physicist, otherwise he would have had to ask his uncle to buy him a new phone. Putting his scarred phone into his pocket, Zhuang-Wu accelerated his cycling speed. In the sky, the time magic machine that Gates was chasing after the moon reading had just passed through the wormhole of time and space. In no time. On the other side, Gates's time magic machine broke through the wormhole again and returned. Zhuang-Wu never found it, but Yu-Du was first caught by Gates and brought to this era for the first time a month later. On the way. Gates. Yu-Du broke free from Gates holding her hand, rubbing her slightly red wrist as she spoke. What do you want to do? The current Zhuang-Wu was still a month ago. It's just a month, with me looking for him and the past him, at that time, the present him will definitely hide. It's too difficult to find, and it may not be possible to find him. Gates turned his back to moon reading and said. But now it's different. One of the two Changpan Zhuang I have been in existence for a month has just been taken by you to the past, continuing the cycle of time. So, the place where I can return to the other Changpan Zhuang has been determined. Let's go to his house and wait for him. Warehouse. John 2, take a look at this phone. Can it still be repaired? Zhuang-Wu handed over his broken phone. Zhan Tu lowered his head and gave a confident smile, saying, no problem. In less than 5 minutes, an intact phone returned to Zhuang-Wu's hands. As he thanked him and looked down at his phone, Zhuang-Wu couldn't help but sigh, black technology is really useful. You can do anything, you can fix anything. He was thinking this way, and the next second, the phone screen lit up, the bell rang, and the incoming call was displayed as Uncle. Oh. It's so close. Almost made my uncle worried. Zhuang-Wu coughed lightly and answered the phone. Hello. Uncle, what's up? Oh, soy sauce, right. No problem, wrap it around me. 9 in the morning and 5 in the evening. Chang Panshunikairo hung up the phone. Afterwards, another express package was received. Just as he was placing a piggy bank in Zhuang-Wu's room, a shout for the boss rang out in the shop. Here it is, here it is. Chang Panshunichiro responded as he quickly walked towards the counter. Immediately after, a man and a woman, 2 young people, appeared in his sight. Do you have any broken clocks that you want to fix? Unconsciously, his gaze swept through their empty hands, and Shunichiro Chang asked in confusion. No, it's not. Gates said somewhat stubbornly. Then Yu slapped him on the back in frustration. Gates, be polite. She first scolded Gates in a low voice, then turned her head and smiled at Shunichiro Chang, saying, Sorry, Mr. Store Manager, my friend doesn't speak very well. No, it's okay. Chang Panshunichiro quickly made a preliminary judgment, a awkward child, a polite child, but neither of them should be bad children. Then, he remembered the rental sign he had hung outside the door this morning. Ah, I see. Are you here to rent a house? Talent. Gates was about to speak, but then an unbearable pain came from his waist. His eyes couldn't help but stare into Bull's eyes, hanging still without any painful cries. Unknowingly, she put down her hand wriggling around Gates' waist and said sweetly with a smile, my brother and I have this consideration, so we came out today to take a look at the house. Yu reading www.yuyukeungshu.net. Excuse me, do you have 2 rooms for rent? Some, it's upstairs. For Changpan Shunichiro, who wants to make the store lively, this is good news. Can I take you up and take a look? Okay, please. Ah. By the way, is there anyone else in the store besides you? There is another child named Changpan Zhuangwu, who is a good child. If you really live here, I hope you can get along well. Who? Well, we will. Emphasizing her tone, Yu once again glared at Gates, suppressing the words he had reached his lips. So, what about Zhuangwu? Perhaps even she didn't realize it, and the name naturally came out of her mouth, giving people a feeling that she had actually known Zhuangwu for a long time. Changpan Shunichiro had this feeling, so he stopped and looked at the monthly reading again, and then became even more enthusiastic. Oh, monthly reading, isn't it? It's a very nice name. For some reason, Changpan Shunichiro suddenly repeated the name of Uedu before continuing. At this time, he should still be participating in school club activities. Starting with this, Shunichiro-chan said with a hint of emotion. Zhuangwu, let me tell you, has had a difficult life since childhood. However, despite this, he still grew up to be a very kind and reliable child. Faced with Changpan Shunichiro, who was trying to speak well of Zhuangwu in front of her, Yudu's expression gradually became a bit silly and cute. This feeling, how to put it, is a bit strange. Mr. Store Manager, did you misunderstand something?